And another meme, I'm spelling it all out. In Arabic, we will write it a little bit differently. So it's Muhammad. It's always going to be written the same way in Arabic. Unless you're making it for calligraphy, then you will like make it all look all cool and stuff. But in terms of English, well, Muhammad kind of sounds like M-O. It kind of sounds like M-U, right? Sometimes they write it M-A. So that's why. It's just because it's not an English word. It is an Arabic word that is being phoneticized with English sounds. So this is why some people hear it differently, so they will write it out differently. Yeah. Okay. This is Arabic, but I'm writing the Arabic into English letters to make the sound what it would sound like. This is just Arabic, so this would be just a transliteration of the Arabic. So if I were to actually write in Arabic, we write from right to left, and then, this is how it would look in Arabic. Okay, it's a ashhadu. And as you know, Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, these three languages have a lot in common, a lot of common roots. So all I'm doing is I'm just putting what does it sound like, and then writing English letters to produce that sound. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So the term they use is transliteration. So this would be the transliteration, and this is the translation. Lost in the transliteration. All right. Okay, some of you guys got it, and some of y'all don't care. Like, just move on, man. All right. All right. So, any other questions about this? This is, of course, for the Muslim, this is the last thing that they want to say before they die as well. It's kind of like, okay, this is the statement that's the most important to say before you die. I think maybe for those who are Catholic in the audience, I'm familiar with it from watching so many platoon movies and stuff like that. The last rites when someone is dying, and the Roman Catholic chaplain comes and reads them the last rites. For the Muslim, to say the Shahada before they die is something actually very important. So I don't know if this is a true story or not, but it's one that I've heard, that in the first Gulf War, there was a Kuwaiti radio operator on the ground, and an American pilot who was flying his plane, and he was hit. And he was like, oh my God, I've been hit. What do I do? What do I do? He said, just calm down, calm down. Just repeat after me. Ashhadu. So I don't know if that really happened or not. But of course, as we mentioned at the beginning, it's not just the words. There's also at least a minimum level of acceptance of the words. Now, a person necessarily, or not necessarily when they say these words, their faith is through the roof, but they've come to a level intellectually, rationally, and to some extent in their inner experience or their inner intuition to make this statement. And then they continue to grow in their faith from that point on. And in fact, will be challenged in their faith as well for that faith to develop. So that's the overall wording. Let's go ahead and go step by step through this wording. All right. So let's start with the first word, which really can take up the whole lecture, and in another venue could probably be a whole course, maybe a psychology course, basically. So this first word, which is I, which is important because usually Muslims shy away from this word, and the Sufi Muslims, or the Muslims who are highly focused on the spiritual dimensions of Islam, they actually think I is a bad word. But for this statement, it's important to personalize and to be courageous enough to stand up and make that statement as an individual, which is very crucial. That it's not, oh, well, I'm going to join a bunch of others who happen to be saying this. It's the idea of this individual soul with individual culpability for its own choices and actions. It's a very important, actually, statement. And when we are reminded, by the teachers and the scholars. They always remind us about, it's going to sound a little bit morbid, but we're going to talk about this when we talk about the belief system in Islam. They say, don't worry about trying to please this or trying to worry about this. It's because when you are in your grave, you will be alone in your grave. Right? When you are standing in front of Allah, when you are standing in front of God on the last day, you will be standing alone in front of Him, right? So this idea of I, and it's a free choice, there's no doubt that if a person is compulsed to make this statement, it is not a valid statement. It has to be of their own free will. This is the scholars of jurisprudence, when they put the conditions for a testimony of faith, they say a person cannot be saying it under duress or any sort of compulsion. And this is, of course, preserved in the Quran itself, when Allah, He says that there is no compulsion in religion, that true guidance has been made clear from the falsehood. Meaning the truth and the falsehood is clear, it's up to you to choose, but nobody can force you to choose. So that's a very clear statement that is there. And you will find, and I'm sure many of you come from a Jewish and Christian background, you will find that this is also the way of the prophets, that usually it was literally I at the beginning against the whole city, or against the whole town, or in some cases against the whole civilization. And so the believers who follow in the footsteps of the prophets afterwards, that they need to be ready as well to be able to stand for truth and justice, even if they are the only ones doing so, which takes, again, I don't want to be too crude or anything, but it takes a lot of guts to just say I itself in a way that may get a response from others that is negative. When we say that I, or the Sufis say I is a bad word, it's when the I is used to promote oneself, right? As opposed to promote God. So then in this case, when one is promoting God over everything else, the everything else sometimes will challenge that person, may even try to kill that person, as we've seen in history. So in any case, individual in the face of society, very crucial, the sense of Muslims being a community, but also individuals within a community with their own individual responsibility. So for Adam, peace be upon him, of course he is the father of all human beings, and he was created from water and earth. Why do we have this in this statement about I? It's because we want to contrast our father, Adam, peace be upon him, to the other creatures which we know about from the last book of Revelation, the Quran. And the other two types of creatures, one is called jinn, which are created from fire. In our belief system, Iblis, or shaitan, or in English we say Satan, he was actually a jinn. He was created from fire. And then there are malaika, or angels. The word malaika means angels. We will have a whole separate class, I think combined with books, on the angels. These are creatures of light. So why is it important to see all those three there? Is because only Adam and his progeny and the jinn, they have accountability. Meaning, the human beings and the jinn, what they share in common, even though we're made from water and earth, with a spirit blown into us, which makes a really interesting creature. And you have jinn created from fire, which maybe, this is a whole other type of creature and substance. But what we have in common is that we both can choose. We can choose whether to do good, whether to do evil. We can choose whether to align ourselves with the rest of creation in worshiping only one God, or to not align ourselves within the deepest part of who we are. The angels, or the malaika, our belief system is that they are created from light, and they are created without any rebelliousness, without any challenging of God's authority, in fact, without any will of their own. They simply execute God's commands. So this is what makes us different from the angels. And interestingly, the scholars, they say the human being can ascend to heights above the angels, or to plummet to depth below